very pleased to announce that receiving this year's Commitment to Peace Through Media Award are my friends Alex Kronemer and Michael Wolff. Now you all can read their bios in your program, so I'm not going to repeat them for you, but I'd like in my own way to highlight the extraordinary work they have done. Michael and Alex come from diverse backgrounds. Michael is a writer and a poet and carries on that work to this day. He's traveled a great deal, spent 3 years on a poetry fellowship in Morocco, previously owned and ran a bookstore in Northern California where he lives. Alex has a background as a Foreign Service officer in the State Department. You will notice the absence of something in both of their backgrounds, anything having to do with media. And they are among, I think, the many people whose lives were transformed by September 11th and who were inspired to try to do something about the incredible divide that that horrible event opened up. They met each other on an airplane from Saudi, right? Both traveling back from Saudi Arabia. Both of them American Muslims. We started talking about the situation in the world and what could be done about it. And by the time they landed back in the United States, the kernel of a new endeavor had been born. So neither of them had any particular background in the media. They were going to start a new endeavor together to change the world in media. And so they decided for their first topic, their first film, to start modestly in an uncontroversial way. And so they were going to do a film and it was going to be a biography of the Prophet Muhammad. And they did that and indeed produced an extraordinary documentary, Muhammad, Legacy of a Prophet, which won acclaim all over the world, particularly among the most difficult audience, Muslims all over the world, including, for example, in Saudi Arabia. It won many awards, not just in this country, but also in countries in Muslim-majority regions. They then went on to produce an extraordinary variety of films, everything from film about stand-up comedians called Allah Made Me Funny, to a kind of feature-type documentary about an extraordinary aspect of American history, Prince Among Slaves, to a documentary about the landmark Gallup poll of opinions of Muslims around the world. And recently they have jumped into and played a very positive role in the mosque controversy in New York with a very active website and events that they've organized. Now, not only has Unity Productions Foundation, the company they founded, produced films, but they've done everything they could possibly do to leverage the power of those films. So they have another project called 20,000 Dialogues, and Daniel Taj, who runs that program, is here, as well as his UPF colleague, Patricia Langdon, who can also wave her hand. And with 20,000 Dialogues, Daniel, who I think really sometimes must be 20,000 people, has gathered the most extraordinary number of community gatherings around the country to discuss these films. To date, this has reached 80,000 people in the country. It's been going for 2 years, not even 2 years yet. And there's a lot of talk about grassroots efforts. Let's get out to the grassroots and involve everyone. But not that many people really do it. And Daniel and Unity Productions really does. And they go to Rotary clubs all over the country, all different groups of people. And I think something that's so encouraging is they have a tremendous response. And people are calling them all the time saying, we want to screen your film. So despite what we often hear, I think they show this tremendous hunger for this knowledge around the country. Together, Michael and Alex and I started a venture to reach out to creators of American entertainment in Hollywood, and we call that venture MOST, which stands for Muslims on Screen and Television. And what we do together is to work with writers, producers, showrunners, researchers, all the people responsible for content in television as well as in films, and offer them a free resource to give them information about any and everything having to do with Muslim majority regions, people, religion, everything from what an Egyptian might eat for breakfast to what life was like in Mughal India. And the goal of MOST is to try, through a very cooperative way of operating, to facilitate the development of more accurate, balanced, varied plots and characters relating to Islam and Muslim majority regions. In other words, not always the terrorist du jour. And we think this is worth doing because, I'm sorry to say, despite what we've heard about the American education, as you all know, in the pre-university version of American education, people don't really learn anything about the rest of the world, with a few exceptions. And so where do people get their information about the rest of the world? From largely television and media. So we're hoping by facilitating a broader and more accurate portrayal of Muslims in America as well as in other countries, we can help bring about the kind of positive change in image and understanding that has taken place about African Americans and gays and lesbians and other groups in American society. It's been a great pleasure for me to work with Alex and Michael in this endeavor. I look forward to continuing to do so. Will you please welcome Alex and Michael to the stage to receive their award.